When I turned 18 in 2008, I decided it was time to start over and left home. I spent 4 years living in my car, dividing my time between a job as a clerk in a convenience store during the day and a job as a security guard at night. My goal was to save enough money to rent a place of my own and maybe one day go to college or get a real job. Finally, at the age of 22, I managed to save a reasonable amount of money and began the search for a permanent home. At the time, I was living in San Francisco, where real estate prices were exorbitant. After months of searching, I found Marcos, an elderly man who was renting a 2-bedroom house in San Mateo for well below market value. The house was in terrible condition and had been unoccupied for a year, but after living in a car for so long, anywhere with running water seemed like a luxury. I accepted the challenge and moved in the fall of 2012. Marcos, a nice man but a little confused due to his age, showed me around quickly. He repeated a few rooms, gently directing me down the corridor. The house was habitable, but needed a lot of repairs. Old light bulbs cast long shadows on the walls with peeling wallpaper, and there were stains on the ceiling from old leaks. Still, when he handed me the keys, I was overjoyed. Finally, I had a place to call home. In the first week after moving in, everything seemed to be going well. I had started cleaning and organizing the house, and despite minor maintenance problems, I was happy. One evening, after a long day at work, I decided to take a relaxing shower in which there was a mirror that spanned the entire wall to the left of the sink. When I got out of the shower, I noticed something strange on the mirror. There was something written in chalk, the word "hi." It intrigued me, but I soon thought that perhaps it had gone unnoticed. Over the next few days, I tried to ignore the incident. However, a few weeks later, after another exhausting day, I took another shower. As I got out of the shower and looked in the mirror, I noticed that there was a new message written in chalk. "Are you staying?" I got goosebumps. That couldn't be a coincidence. It seemed that something or someone was causing it. I felt a shiver run down my spine and began to wonder if one of the workers I'd hired to repair the house was playing a joke on me. For weeks, I was on alert. I checked all the doors and windows before going to bed, and whenever I got home, I looked for signs of a break-in. I became suspicious of everyone and everything. Every little noise made me nervous. Even though I couldn't find anything out of place, the feeling that something was wrong wouldn't leave me. And every night, before I went to sleep, I took one last look in the mirror, hoping there wasn't a new message written in chalk. A month later, I woke up in the middle of the night with the feeling that something was wrong. When I looked at my bedroom door, I saw that it was ajar, although I was sure I had closed it before I went to sleep. I felt a chill run down my spine. The corridor was shrouded in an almost palpable darkness, and I had the impression that something or someone was watching me from there. I took a deep breath and, gathering my courage, got up to close the door quickly. The next morning, I decided to talk to Marcos about the strange occurrences. I called him and explained the situation, asking if there were any entrances or passageways in the house that I didn't know about. He seemed confused at first, but mentioned that the house had a crawl space that could be accessed through a trap door in the bathroom cupboard. However, I had never seen a cupboard in the bathroom. Marcos suggested I check behind the mirror. Driven by curiosity and fear, I went into the bathroom and began to inspect the large full-length mirror. With some effort, I managed to pull one side of the mirror, revealing a hidden door. Behind it, there was a small cupboard, and at the bottom, a trapdoor that led to the crawl space. The cupboard was full of miscellaneous items, old clothes, food wrappers, and some of my own belongings that I thought I had lost. Among them, I found a photo of me with my sister and our old dog. I felt a mixture of horror and anger when I realized that someone was secretly living in my house. When I realized that there was an intruder living in my house, Fear gripped me. I picked up the phone and immediately called Marcos. However, the voice that answered was not his. A deep, disturbing voice said my name, and I realized that the intruder was in the house with me. I locked the bathroom door, but I knew I had to get out of there as quickly as possible. Panic began to rise as I heard footsteps outside. With adrenaline running high, I pushed the mirror to close the closet passage and ran to the front door. On the way, I realized that all my efforts to keep the house safe had been futile. The intruder knew my every move, knew my schedule, and even had access to my personal things. As I ran, I heard a low, sinister laugh echoing through the house. My heart raced, and the only thing I could think of was running away. I got into my car and drove to my sister's house, where I finally felt a little safe. The next morning, I went to the police station and explained the whole situation to a police officer. He accompanied me back to the house to investigate. When we arrived, the place looked even spookier in daylight. I showed the policeman the mirror that hid the cupboard and the trapdoor. To my relief, he confirmed that there were signs that someone really was living there. However, the intruder could not be found. I knew I couldn't live in that house anymore. After the incident, I decided to move to a small studio on the other side of town. The idea of living in a large house with multiple rooms and lots of places for someone to hide was unbearable. Every time I remembered the intruder, I felt a shiver run down my spine. It was difficult to adjust to the new life, but at least in the studio, I had a sense of security that I hadn't felt for months. As well as avoiding large houses, I developed an aversion to mirrors. Every time I visited a friend or stayed in a hotel, I made a point of thoroughly inspecting the bathroom mirrors. I would tap lightly on the surface of the glass, hoping never to find another hidden door. My trauma was deep, and the memory of that sinister smile in the closet haunted me constantly. Over time, I tried to rebuild my life and put the past behind me. I told my story to a few people close to me, but many thought I was exaggerating or that my mind was playing tricks on me. However, I knew the truth. That man was there, living in the shadows of my house, and I could never erase it from my memory. Every night, before I went to sleep, I remembered to check every corner of my small apartment, making sure nothing was out of place. And so I learned to live with my constant fear, always on the alert, always vigilant.